welcome to another PES TV. We are here today with some freshly finished year threes. We are with Kiera and we're with Alys, and they've just finished their dissertation. They were in my dissertation group. So today we're going to be talking about all things dissertation. So just to start off, do you want to just introduce yourself and just give us a brief overview on what was your dissertation about? It might be quite helpful to start. So Alys, do you want to start off?
Yeah, so I'm Alys Patterson, just finished year three in my dissertation. My dissertation basically focused on the effect and impact of art therapy interventions when they were utilised or are utilised with primary age children that are experiencing body image issues. I just wanted to look into sort of like mental health and anything to involve art because it was like a personal interest of mine.
Cool. We'll come into why you wanted to get into it and things in a moment. Thanks for that. Kiera?
Okay, so I'm Kiera, just finished my dissertation, and basically my diss was around how teachers are designing their classroom. So I looked into the most effective ways to design your classroom, and I investigated whether teachers were doing what theory said, and also pinpointed if there was like limiting factors that were stopping teachers from maybe implementing their preferred classroom.
And look at this, they are still in emotional one piece, they are fine, they're smiling. The this year doesn't have to be as bad as you think. So Alys, you sort of started off there and you were about to go into why you chose this. So you're looking at art therapy, you were looking at body image.
Yeah.
Why did you choose this topic?
So I'd say the main reason that I sort of picked it was because art is like a personal interest of mine. But then I believe it's towards the end of year two, you do a diss proposal, which sort of gets you to like reflect on like the interests that you've had in like other modules and things like that, like things that you've enjoyed like researching and things you've enjoyed doing in your assignments. So I basically looked at something that I knew interested me and would also sort of like get me excited to do some work for the dissertation. So I wanted to incorporate all that. So that's basically how I chose it in the end.
That's so important. Not that you get out of bed going, yes, dissertation, but something you're going to be interested in.
Yeah.
Because you do spend a lot of time doing it. And we'll talk about the week and how you program it. But yeah, I think that interest is really, really important. Was that the same for you, Kiera?
Yeah, I think I just looked for something that I was really interested in, and I knew that I would want to study it and do it for the whole year, because you don't want to pick something that you're going to be bored of because it's going to make it harder for you. If it's something you enjoy, it's a lot easier to get it done because you're like actually interested and you're excited to see what you find.
Yeah, and that was definitely the case for both of yours. And as well, I have good advice there, Alys, is just thinking about what you like in your seminars. And, you know, at the start, you talk a lot with your supervisor. We try and guide you on narrow your focus. And for both of you, it was really clear you were really interested in your topic. So think about, if you're choosing, if you're struggling to choose, think about maybe things that you've done in your modules. Think about things that maybe you've liked or you haven't liked, and then maybe try and pursue those. So that's a great start. So, you know, just to give a bit of context, how was the year structured for you? Can you remember how was it structured, the dissertation, just to share with people that are watching? How did you tackle this massive dissertation?
Do you want to take this one, Kay, or do you want me to?
I don't mind, I'll go ahead. So your dissertation is done alongside your other modules. So you basically have a diss meeting once a week with your diss tutor, and you have like a little diss group, and you basically tackle it chapter by chapter. So usually your diss tutor will set you like deadlines, but you don't have to finish your chapter for each deadline. You do as much as you can. So you start off with the first chapter and then you do the next, and obviously it's the easier way to do it, because before I started it, I was like, oh my God, I've got so much to write and I was so overwhelmed by it. But if you just focus on getting each chapter done, don't look at the bigger picture, it's literally done before you know it. and yeah, you're handing in your diss and you're like, oh my God, I've wrote that much already. So yeah.
What about you, Alice? Anything else to add there?
No, not really. It's pretty much as Kiera says. You just have a lot of support. You've got plenty of time to tackle each chapter. So if you look at it like that, it's not as big a sort of like workload as you would once sort of imagine. I understand like it's a lot of words and it is a big independent project, but you have a lot of time to do it if you use your time really wisely. And
it's an independent project. It is done. We offer support as the tutors, but it is an independent project, and it took a bit of time, I think, for our group to get our heads around it. But once you did, you guys were flying. You used the group a lot, so I know you were sharing a lot of reading with each other. I know a lot of WhatsApps going back and forth to support each other, tissues, crying. It wasn't that bad. But yeah, I mean, it's an independent project, but how you manage it, you get support from us, but from your peers as well. Mm-hmm. Do you want to mention anything on that, Kiera? You were nodding away there about support from your peers.
Yeah, I think it's definitely beneficial if you create a group chat with your disc group, because I know we use that quite a lot. I know because during COVID we couldn't meet up, so we were solely online, but I would definitely recommend maybe having like library sessions together and just like chat with each other, because you're all in the same position, you're all doing the same thing, you're probably all going to be a little bit stressed, but you can all work through it together, so that definitely helps.
Okay.
Yeah, you also tend to think of like your random questions that you really want answering, say like when you're in bed in like the middle of the night. So it's just really good to like put them on a group so that you can get the answers pretty much like, well, you can see them then or you can see them the next day before you forget about them, sort of thing. So it's just really handy to have something there and you're just helping each other all the time, like 24/7 really.
Yeah. One of the things that is usually a bit of a struggle to start is just finding the right sort of sources, things to read. Any tips around how you navigated your lit review? How did you find these sources?
Cardiff Met Search. I like obviously, but use the advanced search options. I found what I tend to do with sort of any essay or any sort of assignment that I have was use Cardiff Met Search with sort of like the basic words in advanced search and then narrow it down if you want to get further and more specific items. But then once you found, like say, one really good journal article, just read it through and note down any in-text citations or go through the reference list. If you find something that's relevant, I just tend to snowball my sort of like references in a way and just build it up from there.
Yeah. Did you guys meet with the academic librarian at all? Is that something you guys did?
I think a chance to.
Yeah, I reckon that would have been beneficial because it's quite hard sometimes, especially if your topic's quite, like it's not really been investigated much. I think I would have benefited from that, definitely.
And as well, just going back to what Alice was saying earlier about, think about things you like in seminars. You might be in a topic that you've looked at, class size, work environment. Keep an idea or keep a record of some of those citations.
A good point actually, because for my dissertation, because I used interest from old modules, I knew there were some points that I'd previously used, so I would go back and read my other, say, essays, note down what bits I liked that would fit into my dissertation, and then went through them again to sort of link them back in.
Yeah. So that this is a truly independent project. You go and collect research in a real setting. So how did you collect this data from your participants? What did you do?
So I did questionnaires initially. So I used Google Forms, so it was all online based. Initially, my plan was just to do questionnaires, but I probably had like one response to begin with, and then that wasn't really sufficient enough. So I then did interviews, which I was really not looking forward to. I contemplated if there was any other way I could get research without doing interviews, but I did it. I did 3 interviews and I actually loved them. By the 3rd interview, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I did interviews and questionnaires.
Why didn't you want to do interviews, Kiera?
I don't know. I was so nervous for it because I thought, I kind of thought that I would go into it feeling as nervous as I did when I had an interview myself. But once you start the interview, you realise that you're interviewing them and you're putting them on the spot. Like, you're just reading questions off a piece of paper. They're the ones under pressure. Like, it's actually completely fine. So, yeah, I did enjoy them towards the end.
Yeah. And again, you managed this process. It was nice to see, you managed this and actually you overcame that independently, which is brilliant. Alys, how did you collect your data?
So I decided what sort of method I wanted to use before collecting my data. So it essentially in 2 phases. So I did like an exploratory phase, which explored sort of my topic through interviews with British art therapists via Teams. And I essentially just created an interview guide and sort of went off them and just gathered their perspectives on art therapy and working with children that have body image issues and things like that. And then I used the data that I collected from that to then inform a sequential survey that was on Qualtrics, just to sort of gain more perspectives and develop the findings like further, really.
Yeah, and you used social media as well to target.
Yes, yeah. So I after sending a million emails and not really getting many responses, I turned to social media and I used LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. I think that was all of it. And then really the thing that got me I had one interview that I found, and then the other 2 that I found was actually from the first interviewer. So I mentioned that I was having an issue finding art therapists that were willing to participate, and she basically let 2 of her colleagues know, and then they helped me as well.
Yeah, I think social media is definitely a good way to get your survey out, because I mean, you can send it to your DIS tutors. So like I sent my link to Nick, and Nick shared it out to all the people he knows, because I know he knows a lot more teachers and stuff than I do. So it definitely I got a few teachers in different areas rather than solely just like my catchment area. So I definitely recommend sharing it on any social media you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was the part that brought it to life, was the part when you had to analyse the data. So you had all these responses back, you had the data, and you had to just manage it. And I remember the meeting where you're like, what am I going to do with this? So how did you make sense? How did you analyse this data? What did you do with it? Kiera, do you want to go?
Yeah. So I use Google Forms obviously to for my questionnaires. And the good thing about Google Forms is it already puts all your data into like graphs and stuff. So that was one way that I kind of analysed my data. But then with regards to my interviews, I did via Teams. I transcribed it, which you can do on the Teams app. So that already typed it all out for me. And then I did thematic analysis. So I went through with a highlighter, identifying all the different themes that I wanted in my DIS. And yeah, I worked through it like that. It takes a long time, but once you start highlighting all your themes and you start finding similarities and differences, it all comes together at the end.
Okay. Alys?
So I basically did the same as Kiera, just the other way around. So I did my interviews first, and I thematically analysed them too. There's tons of ways you can analyse data, but I chose a specific model. So Braun and Clark's 6 steps to thematic analysis, because it was just a really simple, easy to follow way to do it. 6 steps that you need to do that one first, cross it off, do the next one, until you get your themes that would then, for me, inform my next part of my research. While similar to Kiera, she used Google Forms, I used Qualtrics for my survey. So like Google Forms, once you have completed your survey and you've put it all in, it will gather all your data and basically put it into graphs, so it's easy to read, and then you can put that into your dissertation.
Okay. Just headlines, we won't go into loads of detail. What did you guys find out? What was interesting? What did you find? Anyone want to go first?
So in mine, I found that so art therapy, the therapist spoke about how it's an age-adaptive approach, so it can be tailored to anyone's needs regardless of age. So it can be extremely beneficial for children as long as it's utilised properly and sufficiently. And the therapist basically said that body image issues in prime age children is considered by them and by a lot of the research that I found to be increasing, mainly due to access to influences such as social media sort of being more accessible and things like that. So the main point that I found was like earlier intervention could be really helpful in making sure that those problems from a young age don't manifest into later life.
That was really succinctly put. Well done. Go on, Kiera. What did you find?
So, like I said, I was looking into classroom design, and initially I was hoping to find out kind of what teachers weren't doing right, or like whether they were designing their classroom the wrong way. But after looking at theory and looking into what people said is a good way to design your classroom, and then actually looking at, interviewing teachers and getting them to do my questionnaires, I found out that theory shouldn't really drive practice. It's kind of the teacher's preference as well as the key stage that they're teaching. There's not kind of one size fits all. And also it's not necessarily teachers' lack of knowledge in how to implement these things. It's more their lack of confidence. So that's kind of the main things I found, as well as that there's many limiting factors preventing teachers from maybe having bare walls, having certain seating plans. So
And
yeah,
well,
I found quite a lot to be there.
And the architecture, some of the teachers just inherit weirdly shaped rooms as well, which is unfortunate. Yeah. Now, I know this part, we probably need 3 hours for this, but you've got some tips for those starting the dissertation. Didn't want to start off. What would you have liked to have heard at the start of your dissertation, just that would have been helpful, do you think?
I would say the main thing that I really heard about dissertation before I started was the amount of times people have cried over doing it. So you always hear these stories about people getting really upset or overwhelmed, but it's really not that bad if you just make sure that you're prepared, you follow the guidelines, and you just really do try and be organised. You actually do have a lot of time to do it. And if you follow it well, you'll be absolutely fine. And it's always okay as well to change your plan in any way. So for me, I had a real issue finding participants for interviews. So I found my dissertation was taking a long time, but during that time, because I couldn't move on to my results section, I was organising my appendices, I was formatting my whole dissertation in a way that I could just add stuff in and checking references, and it just saves you a lot of time in the end. So it's just organisation and preparation essentially.
Yeah. Kiera?
I would definitely say start early, so then you do it step by step rather than leaving it all last minute. Because like I said earlier, if you do chapter by chapter, it's done before you know, and view it as a process. Don't just look at the final result, view it as the process. And yeah, it's definitely, like, I was so scared to do my disc because, like Alice said, people say it's going to be so hard and stuff, but like, we finished it now, and I'm like, how have I finished my disc? Like, it's done. I think, yeah, just don't stress, be realistic, like, just time manage, and you'll be literally perfectly fine.
I say as well, I think you enjoyed it.
Yeah, did.
Times, yeah.
But obviously
I'd say 90% of the time, yeah.
there were some dodgy times, but yeah, on the whole, I'd say, yeah, you enjoyed it. Sessions were, I think you said it there, managing your time, because it is hard. You've got to try and manage these other modules. You've got this going on at the same time. I know you've both been working in schools as well, so it's all these different things. You're trying to get on the PGCE as well, so it's definitely about time management.
Yeah.
Anything else in terms of maybe how you could manage your week in year 3? I know some of you have done set a Wednesday morning, I'm going to do reading then, this is my dis time, nothing else is going to happen then. Anything else you did to manage your week maybe that you could share?
I try to do a little bit a day, really, because even if I was, say, trying to write a paragraph and I just felt like it was absolute nonsense, I would write it anyway, and then I would come back the next day with fresh eyes, and I would find out that it actually wasn't that bad, and then I would just build upon it, sort of thing. So even if you feel like you can't really write anything, just write absolute rubbish, and then you're going to build on it eventually anyway.
That's really good advice. Yeah. Kiera?
I think definitely don't think because you've got all this work to do that you still can't do stuff that you enjoy. So I would make sure that I had time to go to the gym and go for walks and socialise with my friends, because you're still in uni, you still have time to do all that stuff. Just because you're in third year and people are like, oh my God, you've got so much work, you can't do all this. I had plenty of time to still do all the stuff I loved. You just have to make sure that you prioritise a little bit of work a day, like Alice said, and yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm glad you said about, your own well-being. If you're not well, if you're not seeing your mates, if you're not doing the things you like, you're not going to have a really good output. You're not going to want to even write a paragraph, as Alice has suggested.
No.
You just don't want to do it. So yeah, having that balance is really important. And maybe by mapping out your week, dedicating a bit of time each day is definitely going to help. Anything else just to finish? Anything other final?
Can I just say as well, use your support group. It was such a massive lifesaver for me, because there were times when I would feel say, choosing your methods of collecting data, I'd be in over my head and I'd be doubting everything that I was doing. And just having that hour sort of session to sort of talk with your dissertation group would really sort of calm me down and then make me feel sort of confident. And me and Kiera, we talked constantly and we helped each other massively throughout the whole thing. So find those people that you can really, who are interested in helping you, and just really lean on them for help.
Yeah, you're all in this in the same together, so go through it together. And I think as well, just that acknowledgement of you being a beginner I constantly say, and I know other tutors say the same thing, you haven't done this before, and that's absolutely fine. You are a beginner, you are learning to do research, and that's the whole point of this module. So, just try and be kind to yourself in that you're learning how to collect and manage an independent project. Kiera, did you have any final?
Double save or even triple save. I saved on my laptop, on the OneDrive, and on a memory stick, just in case, because the last thing you want is to do an amazing chapter and to lose it. You don't want that to happen. So yeah, triple save, even quadruple save if you've got 2 memory sticks.
Yes, memory stick. You obviously use the cloud. You definitely use OneDrive. I'd continuously email it to myself, but yeah, definitely. Amazing advice, guys. You've survived. So you guys are on to your PGCE now?
Yeah.
You've got placed on PGCE. So we'll see you in a classroom very soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.